Now, one of the stories that has been making the news tragically over the past few years, and today has been answered by the Home Secretary, who has said that they're going to bring out these new ASBO orders, new powers to control suspects thought to be carrying knives, are being introduced by the government in a bid to cut the rising violence, particularly amongst youngsters. Knife crime prevention orders would impose sanctions, including bans on using social media, where a lot of the gangs stir up trouble. Orders would target anyone in England and Wales aged 12 or over suspected of knife crime involvement, even if they are not caught with a blade. Just suspected could get them into trouble. It could actually get them into a situation where sanctions are put on them, that they're not allowed out. Critics said the orders risked criminalising very young people. The possession of knives has increased by almost a third in 5 years. Figures released earlier this month have shown a lot of people, particularly older people, are now carrying knives because they are concerned that when they go out in certain areas, that if they were to get attacked, they would have no way of defending themselves. And this, of course, is the problem. Saying to anybody caught carrying a knife is going to be criminalised. Anybody who's caught carrying a knife is going to be in trouble. If people are frightened, and I'm not just talking about kids now, but older people who live in areas where there is crime are actually concerned when going out. And an old person faced with a young person with a knife, what are you going to do anyway? What is anyone going to do? Which is the reason, probably, as far as I can see, why quite a lot of people carry knives at the moment. And a lot of youngsters are carrying knives, not because they want to go and use them, but because they are frightened of being in a situation like that. The possession of knives, as I said, has increased. It's already a crime to carry a blade in public without a good reason. And there's a separate offence of taking a knife into a school. Now, let's talk about this with Alison Cope. Alison is an anti-violence campaigner. Alison, good evening. Thank you for joining us on the programme tonight.
Hello.
Perhaps you would tell our listeners what happened to Joshua and why you became so involved, first of all.
My son Joshua went out on the 20th of September 2013, got into a minor argument with another 18-year-old boy who was a knife carrier. Joshua wasn't aware of this. The boy was thrown out of the club but waited outside for Josh, and when Josh was going home, he followed Josh, single stab wound to the heart, and Joshua passed away 7 hours later. I never decided I want to make a difference, I want to become an anti-knife crime campaigner, but what I was seeing was a lot of young people were grieving for Josh, and their emotions was making their behaviour deteriorate, and I thought this isn't okay to react in this way. And I remember searching for all this help for these young people, and I just couldn't find it because of the cuts, because of all the things we say. And I remember thinking, hang on a second, all that's going to be created is more problems in society. So I kind of took these young people under my wing, did everything I could to support them, and it worked. And I thought, oh, okay, that was quite easy. So what is everyone else doing about it? And it just started from there. And it's now gone from talking to a few children to 3,000 young people a week all over the country. And, you know, it is so frustrating for someone like me when you see the impact, the results that people like myself are having, but then there's no follow-up, no support. So when these young people are going back into their communities, just like you said, some of them are scared and making terrible choices by carrying weapons, hence why we're seeing the kind of knife crime figures that we're seeing now. There's so many people that are scared of things that are going on.
Do you think that the government's new ideas are going to help, or do you think they could actually alienate people against the authorities in this way? If the police can just say, well, we think you might get into trouble, so we're going to slap a curfew on you, I can see that backfiring, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. At the moment, there are laws. It is against the law to carry a knife. If the police find someone with a knife, what we're saying to young people is, if we do find you with a knife, the consequences aren't that severe. And we're giving them the message that actually, it's not okay to carry a knife, but you won't actually get into serious trouble. You know, we advertise you can go to prison for up to 4 years. That does not happen. So what is going to make young people respect or believe this latest, campaign and rules? Because the rules that are already in place aren't being put, to good use. So what's different now? And if you say to a young person, I'm going to restrict your social media, what are they going to do? Take the phone off them? What are they going to do? Block the internet? Because all the young people will do will find a way around that, go to their friend's house, buy a new phone. And I'm just thinking, you're not really addressing the problems that these young people are facing. And as you've said, older people, family members, community members, because they know if they walk down the road and there's a problem, the only people that can really deal with that problem instantly for protecting family, friends, themselves, is themselves. They dial 999. They might be on hold for a bit. The police are unable to send somebody. They can in some cases, but we're always being told there aren't enough police. They won't get to you in time. You know, we even log a burglary online. It's gone crazy. We need to have communities and people on the street feeling safer, and that's going to reduce knife crime a lot.
Do you think people need to? I mean, it seems to me the whole situation here that has been suggested, this idea that even if the police think that somebody might actually do this, they can impose a curfew. There is going to be a lot of bad feeling. That's what's happened before when we've had riots and all sorts, because people feel they've been treated unfairly. A lot of the kids carrying knives, as you say, Alison, carry them because they're worried about being attacked. In fact, the fear of crime is a lot greater now than it's ever been. The fear of violent crime, isn't it? And that needs to be addressed. Yeah,
because they're more scared of the violent crime than they are of the police officer down the road.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And if the police officers, or more so the courts and the laws that are already there, we use as we state. And you mentioned something that I'll just bring up there, the riots.
Yeah.
The reason that frustrates me, because when we had the riots in this country, our young people and communities knew the government, the courts, the police were not tolerating that behaviour, and they cracked down on it. Money came out of everywhere to get the courts open 24 hours a day. Police cells were opened up. Additional police were brought onto the streets. And children were given the message, we will not tolerate this behaviour. We didn't see another riot. We haven't seen another riot.
So should there be stiffer sentences? I mean, would that be the answer?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
I think they should. They're not using. Well, Alison was quite right. Alison said at the beginning, they're not using the laws that exist. So putting these in.
Young people. It sounds so disrespectful, but if anybody grown up from any background was told something but didn't see it happening over and over and over, you start to lose respect for that. Yeah. And I meet young people, and they're like, nah, we won't get caught. I've done filming, gone down the road, there's been someone with a machete, and you're like, aren't you worried about the police? And they laugh, they're like, what police? Because, sadly, the police are so stretched and unable to, be there on every street corner, which is ridiculous to even think.
Another thing occurs to me, Alison, as well, and I've talked about this a lot on the programme over the years. I've spoken to a lot of ex-gang members as well as people in your own situation who've had children killed in just unnecessary deaths, unnecessary violence. And a lot of people say there is no opportunity for kids to get out of the area they're in. There's no opportunity for them to do something positive. When I was a kid, you had loads of youth clubs. Most of them were turned into discos. You could have music. You could have a laugh. Yeah. There's nothing to do now.
I think for me, I think we've created a percentage of young people that we're constantly enforcing they're worth nothing. They have no hope. We are telling them that ourselves, and what we're doing is creating anybody from any situation can become something. But what we need to be doing is building up their confidence. When you've got a young person who's from a very vulnerable background, in a very, very vulnerable estate, filled with fear, and they see that their goal in life is to deal drugs, and that's what they've been brought up thinking. we just need to be doing more to show them there's a different path. And, it's very difficult. Instead of us putting lots of effort into doing that and reinstalling confidence into young people, we're just shutting off certain communities, certain areas. They become no-go areas. You see them deteriorate, graffiti, rubbish, gangs hanging around at night, and we're just allowing it.
Yeah, this is the problem I have. I don't understand, and I've spoken to chief constables and police officers involved in this, and you say, why these kids hang around quite often looking for trouble. The police intelligence, they'll tell you they know where they are, they know who they are. But the police don't seem to increase their patrols in these areas. They don't seem to be doing anything about it.
No, but if, with respect, Theresa May was having a conference, all these police would pop up from everywhere.
Well, yes.
Their buttons shining, and they would be all standing ready to support the Prime Minister, which is fine, and so they should. But what makes the Prime Minister more important than someone else's child? We've got it the wrong way around, and we're showing young people you are not worthy of investment, you're not worthy of this. And of course, it's down to the young people to make the right choices, and it's not anyone else's fault except their own. But
yeah, I agree with you.
They inside them genuinely, they feel this is all they're worth. They're not worth.
And they've got a fear
anything else.
Of knives, haven't they? They're carrying knives.
But
I think because they're carrying knives, they're more likely to use it if they end up in a fight.
Well,
the boy that killed my son had no previous convictions, was not known to the police. So it's so hard. You can't just pinpoint a certain type of person and say, that's who we're aiming for.
Are you happy, Alison, with the sentencing that the lads who killed your son Joshua got?
I am happy because when we say happy is not a word that...
No, I'm sorry, I didn't...
No, what sentence did they get?
I totally know, but for me, it takes a huge amount of stress, and it puts it to the side for a very long time. That's the only happiness that comes from a life sentence.
Did you?
For me,
did you ever meet the parents of these young people who did this or not?
No, it was a single boy, one boy, and no, because of the amount of stress and young people involved, it was a lot safer to just keep our distance. But what I'd like to see brought in as well is a kind of in-between sentence. So if you've got a 12, 13-year-old that's found with a knife, and, we don't want to traumatise young people, take them off their families, send them to prison for 4 years. I would love, and it sounds a bit harsh, but I feel it's necessary, put them on tag for 12 months. That will be such a shock to their system, restrict them, their home life, their family life. That will show them what's going on, put them on an intensive course. And I don't mean some poncy, don't carry a knife kids. Make them see what real life is about.
Do you think using the term knife crime, because it isn't the knife that it's the mindset of the people who use it. I mean, they could use a sharpened screwdriver.
And you are so right, because it's the mindset. Stopping knives being bought, stopping knives in shops is a teeny weeny little part of the problem. It's the mindset. If you've got a mindset to kill or full of fear, we can all access a knife, but I wouldn't access a knife.
Anyone can get a knife, can't they?
It's
kitchen. I mean,
anyone can get a knife.
Yeah, it's silly sort of going. Yeah.
That's out of control.
The thing that annoys me, and I don't know how you feel about it, but quite often the police will have this campaign. They'll have what they call a knife amnesty, and you'll see a big bin full of knives. Yeah. Well, the only people who are going to do that are the people who probably would never have used one in the first place. Yeah. And it's just...
I think there are tiny parts of jigsaw, but until the mindset changes, you have to get the mindset changed to put that knife in the bin. If we focus on the knife bins, we focus on the poster campaigns, thousands of pounds is going down the drain where we could be investing that in a local police officer that goes around,
Can I ask you, I mean, you don't have to answer this, I'm just wondering for yourself.
Whatever you'd like.
How do you feel about the lad who killed Joshua?
If I'm honest, I focus my brain and my time on keeping my son's memory alive. When I think about him, I can only feel kind of, and people don't understand this, a sense of sadness, a sense of another statistic, another young man lost to prison because of a choice without the real awareness of the consequences. And, prison sadly is full of young men and young women that have gone out one day happily, leaving their homes, their bedrooms, their PlayStations, and they're not going home again. Not because they are some evil, horrible person that should rot in prison. A young person that's made a horrific choice. And until we invest in those people, more people like my Josh will be killed. And those are the people that we need to focus on.
Have you ever wanted to meet this lad or not?
Yeah, I have. I've wanted to meet him because of how many young people were upset by my son's death, because my son was well known in music. I wasn't allowed to be in court when this boy spoke. I wasn't allowed to read out my victim impact statement. There was a lot of things restricted because of the ramifications of people's emotions. So I've always wanted to meet him to see and feel how he speaks and talks about what's happened, but he's not in a position emotionally yet to allow that to happen.
Do you think they realise that knives, sometimes you think they think they'll stab them and they'll go to hospital and be all right? Do you think they understand?
Yeah, I do.
No, some do, because to some
I don't
people
think they
it's
think
very
about
obvious.
it, do they?
Well, when I speak to young people, so say I speak to 3,000 young people and I ask that very question, where is there a safe place to stab? The fact that people actually answer me, legs, arms, shoulders, face, and I'm like, no, you need to realise from today onwards there is no safe place to stab. You shouldn't even be thinking it's okay to slash someone, but let's say you do think like that for whatever crazy reason. You need to realise, you need to wake up and understand this is a murder weapon. It is not a trivial, small thing that is an accessory. This will kill someone, and we're not giving that message. We're just going, don't carry a knife, kids.
In fact, I think it was Damilola Taylor who sadly was stabbed in the leg and it hit an artery.
Well, your
and he
artery
bled
in
to
your
death.
thigh. There's a big ephemeral.
Would you?
I know a young boy that was stabbed in the back, paralysed.
And your son was only stabbed once.
Once in the heart.
When I was at school, there was a kid in the playground, and kids carried knives at my school because of other schools.
Yeah.
And a fight broke out, and between two lads in the playground, and one stabbed him once, and he was dead within 5 minutes in the playground. So that people don't realise that.
No, and how many people are in prison regretting their actions? Prison isn't a place full of young men and women happy they're there and thinking, well, yep, I went out that day. My intention was never to go home again and to sit here for 20 years. So we need to be doing so much more to save people. Yes, there is a lot of things going on in society. It's a mess. We can blame everybody else. We can blame the parents. We can blame the police. We can blame the government. Forget blaming everyone.
It's all our fault, Alison. It's every single one of us.
Everybody's fault. Yeah, but we need to open our eyes, close our mouths in some occasions, open our ears, and get on with what makes a difference. Not just stand there, release a statement, and give yourself a round of applause. Because that is what a lot of people in the government are doing. Go, look what I'm doing about knife crime. No. How many young people do you speak to a week about what they're concerned about? A couple, and think you know? You don't. Until you work on the ground and see with your own eyes what young people are facing, then you are in a position to do something about it. Just because you are in government and getting a big salary does not give you any expertise on how and why these young people are being killed.
Alison, have the government ever asked your advice? Have they ever come to you and said, we'd like to talk to you?
They came to me briefly regarding an anti-knife campaign. The people that had done the campaign, a big organisation, flip chart, and within minutes I said, this isn't going to make any difference. They were like, well, it's been launched anyway. I was the grieving mother tick for their little list of who they'd included. So they don't listen.
No, you're right.
I was there.
I have to tell you, Alison, I've spoken to many, many people over the years, and you're the first person, I think, who has actually summed it up as it should be. There are lots of people doing lots of work. There are lots of ex-gang members trying to help and trying to turn these kids around, which is excellent, and they're doing a great job. But I have never spoken to anybody who has actually summed up the reason, and you've done it perfectly tonight, that it's okay passing laws and regulation. There are enough laws. You don't need any more laws. In fact, some of these suggestions that the government have made today are ridiculous. But that aside, all we need to do is that there are there are parents who don't bring their kids up the right way, and they have to be addressed at some point as well. There are people living in areas of this country where there is literally nothing to do. And if you don't go with the gang, you will become ostracized by everyone else. So the kids have no choice but to do it. And
absolutely.
You see, and I just wish people like you were listened to by politicians. But unfortunately...
So do I. And it's so heartbreaking because to lose a child, there aren't any words, and there's nothing I can say to really put across what it's like. However, just to be listened to, not patronised, not nodded at, not just, oh, Alison Cope, anti-knife campaigner, mother of Joshua, can you sit here and nod for us? No, I can't. If you listen to me and walk my path and see with my eyes, you might actually understand why we're all screaming at you to listen, because this is preventable. We're not talking about something that's so out of control. Regardless of what we see, we can make such a difference, and that's what. So, if it was out of control to the point where there was nothing we could do, people like myself would sit back and be quiet. But because we know we can do so much, but until we listen to, we're just going to keep failing. And somebody in this country.
How many times a year? How many
Mm.
times a year, Alison, are you asked to go and talk to people?
3-4 times a day.
Well, that's good.
And just from doing interviews today, 17 schools have reached out to me and said, please, our children are carrying knives. A year 6 student, so that is a 10-year-old, was had a knife pulled on them outside school. Please, can you come? And I will be there with or without support, with or without funding, because these are children, and even the people that are carrying knives are children.
Alison.
And so we must invest in them.
Yeah, and I think we need to realise that there are people who can't cope, and there are people who need some kind of help and some way of making life more meaningful. Alison, thank you so much. Alison Cope, who is an anti-violence campaigner, and I think spoke very eloquently. And I think if politicians listen and stop wanting to tick boxes, because Alison is absolutely right. Can we find a grieving mother? Can we find... Yeah, OK. Can we find an ex-gang member? Yes. Can we find... And that's what they'll do. And can we get a policeman with a whole bin of knives? Oh, yeah, that'll look good. It won't solve the problem. What Alison says, I think, is exactly right.